This aircraft, there are 6 emergency exits.
Hello, everybody. This is Ron, your captain speaking. We are currently 30,000 feet in the air, and we haven't even left the airport. We just lit the joint. Just kidding, a little pilot humor there. We like to have fun. Our destination today is Casablanca, Morocco. So everyone, sit back, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for takeoff. We will be arriving in 6 hours.
7-footers, gang. What is going on? You know who it is. Jarod and Jenna back here for another week of association chit chat, and your girl's rocking her Knicks hat today.
You're bugging. Like, Knicks Nets play tonight, so you're like, let me put on my Knicks hat to show my support for the team from Gotham. I mean, the team from Gotham who benched Kemba Walker. We'll get to that later. I mean,
You know how I feel about my future.
What? Your future what?
My future best friend,
Oh,
Kemba Walker.
because that's not what you were going to say.
My future best friend, Kemba Walker. Oh my God, you don't even know the tears I have shed. And I know, Jarod, that you have shed tears this week over a different player.
Oh, maybe. That's true. Maybe.
Who I'm about to start
Maybe.
this pod
Maybe.
with.
Mhm.
And that is your boy MPJ, Michael Porter Jr. The Denver Nuggets could be in trouble, guys, because Michael Porter Jr. is pretty much out for an indefinite period of time, aka the entire year, I'm assuming. And so is everybody else. Even a casual NBA fan is assuming that because he's undergoing back surgery. This is going to be his second back surgery in 2 years, Jarod? He underwent back surgery in 2018, and he just signed that massive max deal, but we have to point out that doesn't kick in until the next year. So what do you make of this? 23 years old. That's what makes me nervous, Jarod, is 2 back surgeries in such a short period of time, and a young player like this who's still necessarily growing per se.
Oh, yeah. So that's the challenge, right? When Denver selected him, this was always the thing. The medical records were what they were. And I believe a GM was quoted and said,
knew.
Right, Michael Porter Jr. has the worst medical I've ever seen. Is right?
And
that
that's
was
why
the quote.
he dropped down,
Yes,
right?
correct.
In the draft.
Correct, because he was the number 1 player in that class coming out of high school. No back injury. He's likely the number 1, number 2 pick, right? But the back scared off a lot of teams, but Denver had a long-term approach, right? And they said, you know what we're going to do? We trust that he's going to be all right. And we're picking him at 18. So it's all good for us. So it was out of the lottery when he was selected. And so they said, okay, we're going to give him a full year, get the back surgery. He can heal, rest himself, get himself together. And Jenna, once he started playing, he played well for the Denver Nuggets, an integral part of this team. Mind you, healthy Michael Porter Jr., the reigning MVP Nikola Jokic, and healthy Jamal Murray, many people thought, this team could come out of the West. I mean, they got to the conference finals, right, a couple years ago. But here's the situation. He played, and I talk about this all the time, Jenna. I want to bring it up again. We played parts of 3 NBA seasons in less than 2 calendar years. Now, that's a lot of basketball for a mostly healthy person. Imagine someone coming off a back injury. This is the most concentrated amount of basketball he has played in his entire life, right?
Yeah.
And this ain't pickup ball with your friends at 24-hour fitness. This is NBA basketball, right? So that's going to have a toll. And so, listen, of course, I want the best for MPJ. I want him to come back and be healthy. What Denver's going to have to do is have a plan going forward long-term, and I think they have to revisit it. Even when he's fully recovered and everything, he plays no back-to-backs ever. Like, that's not a thing. No more back-to-backs. Cannot. Because you have to protect this guy not from himself, but from the rigors of an NBA season. Jen and I talk about it all the time. 82 games is too much basketball. Way too much basketball in the amount of time that it's played. Even in a normal regular season, it's too much. And you add the playoffs in on top of that. He's got to play probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 59 to 60 games a season is about what he's doing, right? He's got to give 2 max efforts a week. Yeah, that sounds crazy to some of you, but that's the reality if you want him to be the best version of himself when it matters the most, which is in the postseason.
Absolutely. And what is so frustrating about Michael Porter Jr. is that he is so good. Like you said, he was slated to be the number 1 pick, dropped in the draft class because of that injury history and medical history that he has. But what's so frustrating about it is he sat his first season recovering from that first back surgery, right? Then he comes back, and in a short period of time, he becomes one of the top young prospects in the league. And the last season he averaged 19 points. So you saying that, no back-to-backs, playing roughly a limited season ever it's upsetting. You know what I mean? Because he's 23. I mean, his potential and his growth instantly seems stunted. And here's another thing that I was thinking about. So we know, right, that MPJ and, Denver have been looking for a non-surgical treatment for this back injury, this ailment, that he's dealing with. So my assumption, which we don't know too much right now, but my assumption, if I'm trying to connect the dots, is that it's so bad to the point where surgery is the only option.
Well, that's the thing about backs, right? Yeah, backs are a tricky thing, and everyone always tries to go the first route. Look, for any injury, it's can we recover this without surgery? Because surgery is always the last resort. You look at any surgery, like that's right, unless it's something where like a broken and I have to go in there. They're usually trying to find other options beyond surgery. When you look at and surgery is the choice, it's like, look, because we have no other options to fix this, right? And again, they want him being healthy. So that means, again, that limited schedule. So guess what? If you're only going to play 58, 59 games a season, that may mean you're not making any all-star teams or all NBAs or whatever. That just may be the short-term price you pay to be able to have longer-term success. Because again, at this age and with backs, and this is not the back of a normal person, right? Michael Porter Jr. is 6'10". Like, I mean, he's big people and large people. This is always a problematic thing when you operate on their body because they're already outside the parameters of a normal human being, size-wise, right? So there's so many things to keep in mind with that. And, for Denver, it's tough, man, because now no Murray. He's not back till the second half of the year. Porter Jr. out for the season. Jokic came back last game. But, I mean, look, and Jokic can do his thing, and they can be a playoff team for sure because he's the MVP. But, I mean, they're not good enough to be a contender with just Jokic.
No, not now. Because, again, like you were saying that at one point people were saying, hey, they're going to come out of the West. I mean, this big three per se that they started formulating that chemistry. So truly, side note, as we're recording this November 30th, LeBron James has entered health and safety protocols and is out tonight versus the Sacramento Kings, the Lakers say.
We'll get back to your boy King James in a second.
Yeah. So anyway, really quick before we move on, but like we were saying, that big three that started to formulate there, very young big three. Now that this has all happened with injury, you have Nikola Jokic kind of on this island by himself. What does this mean for him? I mean, at this point, you just said, look, they're not going to contend at this point. What
you're going to see is how valuable Jokic is, right? Because he's going to put up MVP numbers again, and he's going to, bring this team to the postseason because he's that good. And that's the thing, right? They're going to end up being a worse team, probably record-wise, still make the playoffs, but that should be actually a more valuable season for him than last season, right? Like that, because you're going to see him do it now for basically an entire season. But NBA awards and narratives, you know how that goes. Look, this is a lot of pressure on Jokic, obviously. And the other thing to keep in mind here, Jokic is due for a contract extension, and as an MVP, that means supermax money's coming. Are we 100% sure he's going to re-sign come 2023?
Nope.
Right. So he's got to look at the situation and be like, all right, I love Denver. I love playing with these guys, all that. Jamal Murray, I got to see what it looks like coming back. The Michael Porter back injury is a big deal because he is the number. That's our number three, right? It's me, it's Murray, and it's MPJ. That's our big three. And if MPJ ain't that, and they're already locked into that money, Jokic has got to be like, as much as I love Denver, where can I go to potentially win championships? Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen. People in Denver, don't get mad. Don't be coming in here flooding mentions or whatever. But if he doesn't sign the extension in 2022 in that offseason, look out.
Yeah, look out. That is a team-altering, culture-altering, future-altering move. So with that being said, he'll have a choice to make there too. And again, we still have to find out a little bit more about Jokic. He's very calm, very quiet, very timid. I'm still curious to see if he's a Dame Lillard type guy, like, blood, sweat, and tears in Portland, or if he's, more of a little hopper. but we won't name names. So let's move on.
Hopper, we won't name names. You wild.
Had to do it. Anyway, let's talk about the Brooklyn Nets. Your Brooklyn Nets. I say that.
Wait, why
because,
they gotta be my Brooklyn Nets?
I was about to clear it up because I knew you were going to come for me, but you didn't let me. That's how well I know you. Okay. You didn't let me rectify the situation. I say that because I like to remind any new listeners that Jarod is a beat reporter for the Nets, and it's freaking awesome. Okay.
True. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Just trying to give you some flowers out here in these streets. You know, they're very scarce these days. So anyway, let's talk about these Nets. Should we say the ailing Nets? What's going on with them? I say this because now we have Joe Harris out. He's getting surgery on his ankle. He'll be out 4 to 8 weeks. They're hoping potentially that he'll be back before then. But again, let's hit the pause button on him. He's out. We are still without Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn. And James Harden, I say his name because he had some interesting comments after their loss to Phoenix the other night. We're always used to Harden running a team, right? He ran the Rockets, ran the offense. It was always his game. Again, small ball game. We don't really do that many other places, but still. So he was saying after the loss that he's, quote, still trying to figure things out in terms of himself running the offense, in terms of being a playmaker and things like that. Pretty much everything that his game has to do in Brooklyn. Again, he's still adjusting, very premature there. But talk to me about these Nets, because should we be worried at this point? I mean, again, it's really, in my opinion, Kevin Durant standing on an island by himself. Again, you said it a couple episodes ago. He is not the issue in Brooklyn.
Look, this Brooklyn Nets team has a problem, okay? They are designed to work when they have 3 elite offensive machines in Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. Mm-hmm. They are what we call force multipliers. When those 3 are operating at the peak of their powers, it elevates Joe Harris, Bruce Brown, Nicholas Claxton, DeAndre Bembry, Patty Mills, all these secondary and tertiary type of players. Their game is lifted because of the greatness of those 3. That's how this roster is designed to function. When you only have one of those players, of those 3, operating at an all NBA supernova level, and the other one who's on the floor, I mean, let's be 100% honest right now. James Harden is not even playing like an NBA All-Star. He's playing barely. He's playing, you know what he's playing like? A league average starter. That's not good, right? Like, a league average starter does not amplify or force multiply anybody else, right? And so now Kevin Durant is the lone force multiplier. That's not enough to be a contender. And that's the number 1 seed in the East, got the best record in the Eastern Conference, doing what they got to do. But the reason why they're not able to be elite against excellent teams is, again, because there's not enough force multiplying on the floor. So when the Warriors and Suns, they're like, oh, we don't got to worry about James Harden. Only person we got to cover is Kevin Durant. They put a box and 1 on him, triangle and 2. They're like, because the rest of these 4 dudes, they ain't doing shit. And sure enough, they were not. You can't do that when you have James Harden operating at all NBA level and Kyrie Irving operating. Now it's like, oh shit, we got problems, right? Like we can't double anybody. We got to prey on single coverage, which now means, guess what? Joe Harris, Patty Mills, all those secondary and tertiary guys, what are they doing? Getting wide open shots, free runs to the lane, doing whatever. They don't have that now. And so they are not good enough as currently constructed to win an NBA championship. And it's not about the foul calls and all that, because if you look at James Harden's last 10 games, the free throw numbers are up. And if you look at his average free throw attempts this season and last season, they're essentially identical. So it ain't the free throws, okay? He is playing bad basketball, really bad basketball. And that leads me to wonder, you know, we have a group chat with the guys, and shout out to Dexter, who's producing for us today. I said, there is something going on with him outside of basketball, because this is just bizarre. Like, he looks like he's making grade school level mistakes, like that 3rd graders make, dribbling the ball off his foot. Like, I'm like, what are you doing? Something is going on with this man away from basketball, and it is affecting the team.
Okay.
His play.
Okay. Yeah. You just answered my question, my next question. And that was, you know, what do you think it is? And, you know, if it's mental, if there is something personal, serious, anything aside from that, if it has anything to do with his game, do you think it is something in terms of adjusting to a new coaching style, a new team, a new offensive rotation, a new role in a team, like moving away from the small ball aspect? What do you think that it could be basketball wise if it is nothing outside of that realm?
That's the thing, Jenna. Nothing, because this is a guy who's been a former league MVP, finished top 2 multiple times. He didn't all of a sudden wake up and forget how to play basketball. Like the players say this to us all the time in media sessions when we ask them. They be like, "Yo, guys, at the end of the day, it's basketball. It's simple." Yeah, is it so simple, my guy? Why are you making it look so hard then? Right? If it's like, so that's the thing.
Oh, you're funny.
He didn't forget. Right? He knows how to play ball. Last year, when he was playing last season, he was playing at an all NBA level. Right? That's the kind of ball he was playing. The reason why he didn't make all NBA is because of the way he was punished for the way he left Houston. But he was playing all NBA level basketball last year. So somehow between last season and this season, you forgot? No, that ain't it. Something else is going on. Whether it be the first step is not there, the explosion, whatever it is. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. James Harden is not what we would call a gym rat. Let me rephrase that. A workout rat, right? From a weights and a body conditioning rat. That's not, he's a pickup rat. Like, he'll do that. He'll play pickup till the cows come home. But in terms of physically sculpting his body, he don't live in that part of the gym. And we all know this. As you age, no, man, you can't be doing them things that you used to do when you were 22, 23, 24. Body's not sculpted that way, right? And so, the hamstrings were an issue. I think they're fine now. It's 20 games, right? And I always say the quarter season mark, that's when trends emerge, right? He's shooting like 30% from 3. That is abysmal. He's not a 40% three-point shooter, but he ain't a 30% either. He's more of a 36, 37, right? Above league average. He's not doing that. Turnovers, super high. We're seeing it. We're seeing it.
Yep. Stupid mistakes, turnovers, and I was looking at the box score the other night. I think it was against the Suns, and he played 40 minutes and had 12 points. He's supposed to be an offensive savant. Like,
12
you know what I mean?
points.
12 points. And again, people will be like, oh, well, he had 13 assists and 14 rebounds. I get it, but that's not part of James Harden's game. We know James Harden for being an offensive kryptonite for teams. So, it's off at that point. It's just off in so many ways that, I can't pinpoint exactly what it could be at this point. So again, they're struggling. And at some point you have to say, how much pressure are we going to put on Kevin Durant?
Well, that's the thing, Jenna.
I get it. He's Kevin Durant. He is up there with the LeBron Jameses, Michael Jordans of the world. They could do everything and save your team. Yeah, okay. But the man's coming off an Achilles too. Like, let's give him some grace there a little bit. Yes, he's not acting and playing like he has come off one, but still, we still have to keep these things in the back of our mind when it comes to actual medical history. So, it just worries me. How much do you want the man to carry your team, and how much is he going to take mentally?
That's the point, right? Is that you want Kevin Durant at his freshest in April, May, and June. Well, if you gotta drag this team, and he's already playing, averaging 36 minutes a night, already too much in the regular season, already, right? This is, again, your goal is to be the last team standing in June. Well, if you have to struggle this hard to be this good in November and December, that doesn't bode well for later in the season, all right? So they're going to need a lot. And let's also be frank about something. The New York City vaccine mandates are not being lifted. So unless Kyrie, for some reason, has some major change of stance, which highly unlikely, this team is not going to have Kyrie Irving this year. So that means their margin for error is literally zero. If James Harden, again, and I'll say it very plainly and clearly, if James Harden is not playing at an MVP All-NBA level, this team will not win an NBA title, period.
Couldn't agree more there. And you could argue, too, in the Kyrie Irving situation, which I won't get into it, but you could argue this could be the best and only shot, the only best shot that the Nets have at getting a title this year.
they're not getting younger as a team. Their big three isn't young. They're not in their
So
20s. They're all in their 30s.
Kyrie,
Every year you get older, you have less of a chance.
Yeah. So when Kyrie is prioritizing these things, I mean, some would argue that. I don't know. It's a dicey situation, but they seem to be in a small deal of trouble. I'll say small right now because it's not great and it's early on. So we shall see. We shall see. I feel like all we're talking about is injuries, and that seems to be the trend because we're continuing with injuries.
But Jenna, it's what I talked about, right? Like parts of 3 seasons over 21 calendar months. That is absurd.
You did.
That is a lot of basketball. Like, do you know what is hurting these guys? It's the job function that they do. Basketball is a high injury sport. The more you play it, the more chances you have of being injured. Because guess what? The more tired you are. Injuries always occur when you're tired because you're not doing things in the manner you're supposed to do them in from a function standpoint. This is what we're seeing right now. And we're getting into it now with the next team we're going to talk about.
Heck yeah, let's go to Atlanta because they are riddled with recent injuries. And the most recent is Bogdan Bogdanovic, who, if you guys caught that game, he had to be helped off the floor in the second quarter of their loss to the Knicks on Saturday. And he will be out at least 2 weeks after an MRI said that he has a right ankle sprain. And also in that game, Cam Reddish was hurt. He underwent an MRI as well, and he has a left wrist sprain. He's day-to-day, they say. But two young key players of this Atlanta young core that are averaging respectively 11 and 11, actually, near 12 points this season. So what does this mean for Trae Young and the load that he's going to have to take on in the absence of these two? And that is pending if these injuries heal properly.
And let's also remember that DeAndre Hunter's out. So this Atlanta Hawks team, which you and I loved at the beginning of the season, what were you going to say?
Yes, and I will just say, they are the number 10 seed in the East. However, they're tied with the Cavs, the Sixers, and near the Knicks. So, I mean, this can fluctuate so much. And remember, we do that play-in, and the East, it's anyone's game in the East. So this Atlanta team is fighting for a spot, per se. Again, early on, but something to note.
20 games through, and I just mentioned DeAndre Hunter also out, right? So all that depth that we love on Atlanta being tested now. Because it used to be, we got Kevin Huerter, we got Cam Reddish, and DeAndre Hunter. Well, now you only have Kevin Huerter, right? Mm-hmm. Like those other two, and Bogdanovic is out too, right? Like this now tests your depth. So all that depth that looks incredible on paper is now like, well, don't really matter now because they're all out. You got Okoro coming back from injury. There's so much that they are dealing with in Atlanta. And, this Atlanta team, I talked about it before when they started the season, and Trae saying, it's hard to get up for the regular season when you made the conference finals. I was like, yo, my guy, I think you're seeing it now. This ain't no guarantee because you went to the conference finals last year. All right, we good. We're just going to show up and we'll be back in the conference finals again this season. Right now, you're in 10th place, as you mentioned, a quarter of the way through the season. Yes, injuries, and that they get everybody back. They can go on a run. But the quarter mark and where you are record-wise, barring something major happening, is usually around where you're going to finish in the standings, right? Like give or take a spot or two, right? That's about where you're going to end up. And so, we're seeing injuries more than anything define what's going on here. And, it's a little cross-show promotion here. I will be on the NBA Exchange tomorrow with our good friend Dexter Henry, who's producing this show, talking about dynasties and title windows and how, man, you think your title window is going to be open for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Listen, you're always one injury away from, there goes your window, right? Like, so it's always about the now. Like, if we have a chance now, you best be going all in because you have no idea what's going to happen a week, a month, whatever from now. And it's tough blow for Atlanta right now. So Trae's going to have to really put a lot on his shoulders. And guess what? All the opposing teams know, Trae, all we can do is worry about him. Box and one, triangle and two, right? Do things to stop and force other guys to beat him. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll see. Again, Atlanta's not the only team battling through injury right now. So we're going to have to talk about the Grizzlies because they are also battling injury. I'm talking their star, the face of the franchise, in Ja Morant, out indefinitely right now with a left knee sprain that he suffered in the first quarter of their loss against the Hawks, ironically. Speak of the devil. But yeah, he avoided significant injury. They say, but in Memphis, but that was a really scary to see go down, especially, to Ja Morant. I mean, that is the face of the Grizzlies at this point. So again, I say this because he'll be out for at least a couple weeks, they say. So what does this mean for your guy, Triple J?
Well, look, it's tough break for the Grizzlies right now. And obviously, they are the league's worst defense right now. 30th in defense in the entire NBA. They're playing terrible on that side of the ball. Offensively is what's keeping them in the game. But offensively was Ja Morant being the hub. Now it's going to be Desmond Bane. It's going to be Jaren Jackson Jr. It's going to be Dylan Brooks. It's going to be all these other guys having to step up and shoulder that load. And Triple J was the third pick in the draft for a reason, right? He's going to have to step his game up. And he's been doing some things differently to show that he's ready to sort of like make that next step up to really show, all right, I can be a cornerstone of this franchise too, along with Ja Morant. So yeah, this is going to be time for Triple J to shine essentially and see if he can hold down the fort and take on a lot of the scoring load with Ja Morant being out. But it's tough. And, I had the Grizzlies as a team that's going to get solidly in the playoffs this year. Remember I said that based off last year, but this ain't going to help that for sure.
No, it's not. And we'll have to see as these Grizzlies trudge along here. But again, similar situation as in Atlanta. So all these young teams, hopefully these guys can bounce back because it's not like they're the Lakers getting hurt. No, I'm kidding. Kidding. I'm just wearing a Knicks hat today.
Listen, Jenna, can we just real quick about your Lakers? Like, come on. It's a wrap. Like what? I mean, let's be real about it. They're 500. Are they even 500 or are they a game below 500? Listen,
they lost to the freaking Kings or in double overtime. Like,
listen.
I'm done at this point.
Listen, it may be a wrap on your boy LBJ. That's all I'm saying. It may be it. This may be it.
Don't do that to me, Jarod. Let's just stay in the West because on a lighter note, Steph Curry's cooking everybody, and it's not even funny. It amazes me that he's in multiple primes at this point. You could say. I think it's safe enough to say. I mean, he went off the other night after he got a technical and that should have been a foul. Did you catch that? Of
course. Oh yeah, I watched that Warriors Clippers game. A clear foul. That was the maddest we've seen him since he got tossed in 2016 for throwing his mouthpiece in Game 6 of the Finals. Right?
Yeah,
like
2016.
That was the angriest we've ever seen him, and it's like poor Clippers, right? Like they didn't do nothing, but the ref teed him up, so he's like, I'm gonna take it out on the Clippers now. Like the man literally said, all right, cool, I'm gonna F you. I'm gonna go on my own personal 9-0 run. Forced the Clips to call a timeout, hit the ref with his own technical after that. I mean, it was
literally hit him with a tee, teed him up right there. He knocked down 3 triples in a row. I mean, he cooked in the fourth quarter there. So good for Steph. I mean, he said in a recent article here to Yahoo Sports, he said that it was the bubble that really, it was his lowest point. It kind of broke him down and made him see what was kind of essentially happening around him. I mean, the Warriors hadn't made the playoffs at that point in a minute, and they were used to being the dynasty that dominated, but that wasn't the case. So basically kind of got a taste of what these dumpster fires have been tasting these days. And said that. What do you think of that? What do you make of that? I mean, he's obviously channeling it and using it to lead, the Warriors to what? They have the best record in the West.
Yeah. So here's
16-2?
Yeah, 18-2. Here's what I'm saying. The Warriors somehow have managed to move themselves from the favorites and the dynasty and the talk of the league to somehow this year, the underdog, chip on our shoulder, nobody believes in us team. It's quite a miraculous way they were able to spin that. And you can see it in Steph and in Draymond. They're not letting anything slide. Literally nothing. They're taking everything personally. And they're already good in champions. And now they're acting like we never did it before. God help the rest of the league. And Clay isn't even back yet. It's problematic right now. And yeah, Steph is entering another prime. I mean, if you look at his body physically, he's just bigger and stronger than he was. Listen, he's bigger and stronger than he was in those back-to-back MVP seasons. Just take two pictures side by side and put them next to each other. Physically bigger and stronger. He is competing and playing defense in a way he has never before. And his defense has always been underrated. But, he's not like, I'm not saying he's like an all defensive guy, but he is like, it's 6 steals the other night. Okay. Like he's such a competitor. And I think the whole baby face and all that shit the media likes to do about him and like all that stuff, like this dude is a fucking killer. Okay. Like a stone cold killer. When he hit that crazy behind the back pass against the Clippers for that lay-in, he came running back down the court and said to two guys in Kawhi jerseys, "I'm a bad man." And he 100% is. And he's at the peak of his powers right now. And the Warriors might have the MVP, the DPOY, and Coach of the Year all on the same roster. We're only 20 games in. And look, in the Western Conference, I said this last week, Jenna, besides Phoenix, and we're going to get to that matchup in a bit, and potentially Utah, who are you worried about if you're the Warriors in the Western Conference? Dallas? The Lakers? The Clippers? The Grizzlies? I mean, none of those teams striking fear into anybody's hearts, right? And the Warriors, if they continue this, will have home court advantage, right? So they're at a level right now, Jenna, that is dangerous for the rest of the league. And it is led by their MVP, Steph Curry, who, again, he's already one of the all-time greats. But I think the thing about it is that he's still playing like that chip on his shoulder guy from Davidson. He was telling you too small. Even with all the success that he's had, he's still playing with that mindset. And I mean, he's so much smarter at the game now. He's so much more nuanced and knows all, right? He knows every single intricacy and detail. It's tough. It's tough. And again, for the timing of everything in the West and what the Warriors are doing right now, sheesh. Look out, rest of the NBA.
You can tell that he took that time really to educate himself. And I don't mean that in an insulting way, but really, when did he really have the time to sit down and hone in on the mental aspect and kind of exercise himself in that type of way? You know what I mean? Because I feel like it was always on it for Steph and the Warriors, because they were this dynasty that had high expectations. They were winning championships. They were playing longer seasons. So that time shift and having it time to really grow mentally, I can't imagine what that did for him in that aspect.
The other piece of that, Jenna, is, remember I said about the injuries, right? So parts of 3 seasons over 21 calendar months. Well, guess what team played the least amount of basketball over those 21 calendar months? That's right, the Golden State Warriors. So after 7 seasons of going to the finals and playing into late June and getting tired, Steph and those guys had literally 2 postseasons off. Now, that stoked the competitiveness in him. And like he said it, I miss being on that stage, miss competing, all that. But you know who didn't miss it? His body, because it got to heal and recover. There's no wonder they're playing the freshest of any team in the league, and they're out to such a huge early run on the league's best record because of, again, those 2 seasons of no playoffs. That was huge. And again, not only that, and Steph missing essentially that entire season with the wrist. The amount of rest and what that means, I cannot stress to people enough. And I don't think, again, the casual fan doesn't understand how much rest and recovery plays a factor in your ability to be able to perform at peak level when it matters most. Like, it's science. And having those 2 postseasons off and essentially that year off for Steph, oh my God, huge.
So huge. And we have to say that Klay Thompson and James Wiseman were just assigned to the G League. So they're working their way back. So that's looking good. And again, let's just remember that the Warriors are doing this without those 2 very, 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 very good basketball players. One being Klay Thompson, one of the best shooters that we've ever seen. So yeah. Kudos to the Warriors, though. I love what I'm seeing. And what do you make of tonight's game as we record this on November 30th against the Suns?
Yeah. So
what do you want to see?
Titanic matchup. I'm looking forward to this for a couple reasons because I said this last week, Jenna. There are only two teams potentially that I think matchup wise in a postseason series that could give the Warriors trouble. That being the Phoenix Suns, and if they're fully healthy, the LA Clippers. And that's because when the Warriors detonate and go into their small ball lineup, those two teams can match them. So tonight, I want to see DeAndre Ayton on the floor when the Warriors go small, because the Suns are one of the only teams in the league that when another team goes small, they don't take their big man off the floor. Now, Utah doesn't do it either, but because their perimeter defenders are weaker than the Suns, it forces Rudy to do way too much. You got to cover the paint and sprint out to three-point shooters, which, I mean, nobody can do that, right? But if DeAndre Ayton, in those minutes when they go small, if he and the Suns are holding their own, so that's what I'm looking forward to see. I want to see what happens when Mikal Bridges is alone on Steph on an island. They're like, we're not sending any help. We're not doubling. It's just you. I want to see what that looks like. And Devin Booker. I want to see what Book does in this matchup across from Steph, because, you know, Book's got a lot of fuck you in his game, right? Like that's who he is, right? Like he's that dude. Like, and when he sees Steph doing this thing and bombing and shimmying and doing whatever, that's not Book's game, right? He's going to do a little bit differently. How is he going to take that on? Is he going to try to go mano-a-mano, or is he going to do and get his within the offense and see what's happening? And of course, it's always entertaining when Chris Paul and Steph Curry play because of their history, right? So what tricks is the wily old veteran Chris Paul going to do? You know, is he going to stick his butt out? You know, all the fun things we enjoy Chris Paul doing. Like, what's he going to do to gain an edge? I'm excited for this matchup. I really, really am.
Same. I'm excited to see. I'm expecting Devin Booker to have a huge game because, first of all, the Warriors have been on too much of a good streak. It needs to end. Like, I'm bored. So, but I expect Devin Booker to have a huge game because everyone is expecting him to. All eyes are on him. He's going to go head to head with Steph Curry, and I think he's going to give him the business a little bit, other than Chris Paul, of course. But I expect a big game out of him. I feel like everybody's underestimating him, and really not. I feel like Devin Booker never gets enough credit for what he can do for a team offensively, playmaking-wise, especially after being under CP3 and making that finals run. So, again, I'm expecting a huge game out of him. I can't wait to see this matchup. I mean, we're looking at, you know, a deep playoff matchup here. So, I mean,
this could be the Western Conference Finals, right? Like,
exactly.
If the seedings hold out and they finish the year 1-2 in whatever order, they would end up and they go through the playoffs as they should based on their record. This would be the Western Conference Finals, and this would be a hell of a matchup. Titanic. I think the X factor is the DeAndre Ayton minutes on both ends of the floor. Can he hold his own defensively, which I believe he can, when they go small? And can he punish Golden State on the other end offensively when they have no rim protection? That's what I want to see.
You and me both. I think it's going to be a tough physical game too, especially, under the basket there. Draymond Green, I think, is going to bring it. He knows the high magnitude of this matchup. So we know he's going to bring a big one. Let's talk about some news and notes here, because these aren't just any small tidbits. These are actually pretty significant, huge moves. So let's start with, my guys here in New York, and because they have benched my guy, Bronx native, Kemba Walker, just got here. So quick to tear him down just as much as you built him up, damn it. No, I'm kidding. But that is what some fans are doing. So be nice to my Kemba. But anyway, he's benched for Alec Burks, who went off the other night in a massive performance, 23 points in 39 minutes in a win over the Hawks. We're talking about the Hawks a lot today, but not in a good sense. So Burks shining, Kemba struggling. Talk to me about the benching of my guy, Kemba Walker.
Look, he's hurting them defensively. He's got the worst defensive estimated plus and minus of his entire career right now through 20 games. And what he's bringing offensively is not enough to mitigate what he's doing on defense. I mean, it's that simple. And when you play two small guards in him and Fournier in the backcourt, listen, Jenna, you know how I feel about small guards, right? Like it's a problem. You get exposed on defense. And if the offense is not enough to mitigate that, what are we doing? Look, Kemba's had knee issues since he's been in Charlotte, right? Since he had that first lateral meniscus tear. And it's been ongoing ever since. This may be the end of the road for my guy Kemba, like in terms of being an impact starting level NBA player. Like that's just not in the cards anymore. And it's tough to say, and it's sad, but the NBA is littered. The NBA history is littered with small guards who, when it falls off, and it's just bad, and it's tough. But Tibbs had to do what was right for the team. Like, this team wants to play better, and Burks gives them size at least, so they can at least defend a little bit better. But yeah, it's tough, and it's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, and you're right. You do have a good point there about small guards in the NBA. I mean, I feel like
Kemba's 5'11" on a good day, right? Like, yikes. I mean, it's tough. It's tough. It's hard for little guys. Listen, this is a land of giants. The NBA is a land of fucking giants. It is very hard when you're small. Very hard.
And I feel like we look at Damian Lillard, and that gives a lot of people hope, but that's a special case right there. I mean, he's,
and
cemented in Portland.
And Damian's struggling right now. And so are the Blazers, right? So let's,
Well, let's move on. We got to talk about another thing here. Enes Kanter, not so much on his on-the-court play, but off the court. He changed his last name to Freedom.
Enes Kanter Freedom.
What are your thoughts about this? And this comes after he's been in the media for a number of issues that he continues to stand for, as well as him slamming LeBron James, slamming Michael Jordan, two of the biggest names in the game. A lot of people would, kind of say that is social suicide when it comes to basketball popularity.
Yeah. So look, I want to be clear about something. Enes Kanter is an enemy of the state in his homeland of Turkey, right? Like, his Turkey with a dictatorial government regime with Erdogan as its leader, and the human rights violations that go on in Turkey. He stands against all of that, and all the horrendous activity that goes on in China that he speaks out against. So I have no issue with his stances and what he's fighting for and what he is bringing attention to. What I do have a problem with, though, is that he is being a puppet and being used by people on the alt-right. I mean, look, he was on Tucker Carlson's show this week, right? And the reason why he's on these shows is because he's attacking people like LeBron James, right? So it's the message. I get it, and I love what he's doing, but whom he is attacking, bad faith actors on the right are using that for their own gains, and therefore his message is being diluted, right? And that's the problem. So again, I have no issue with what he is fighting for and fighting against and standing up for. But I do have a problem with the way it's being used by the alt-right, and that's because his message is being co-opted, and he's got to be smarter about that. You're on mute.
These are bold issues. So, it is to be taken serious and not lightly. And again, I don't want to stumble over any type of misdirection, seeing as I really don't care to cover it as much as, it gets a little dicey, you already got the people in your mentions about basketball. I don't need any more issues clouding my mentions. So let's stick with the game here and talk about the Magic. I mean, not that there is much going on with the Magic, but just another blow that is not good for them. Jalen Suggs, the number 5 overall pick in the NBA draft here, rookie out indefinitely after suffering a fractured thumb in a loss against the Sixers. I mean, what is there else to say about the Magic?
I mean, nothing. They're a dumpster fire. We know that. And this is unfortunate for Jalen Suggs, right? Like, there's so many organizations out there that I feel like if you get drafted into as a young player, I'm like, damn, I don't know if that's going to work out for you, man. Sacramento's one of them. Orlando's another one, right? It's just like, I just don't know what's going to happen to you when you get to these places. And it's a shame because, we wanted to see Jalen sort of like develop and do his thing. Cole Anthony's playing well down there. Question is, right, do they keep Cole Anthony? Do they move him, right? Because you got Jalen Suggs, so it'll be interesting to watch down there, but tough break for the rookie.
Completely tough break. Hopefully he recovers well from that. I mean, we think it's something small like a thumb, but it's no joke when it comes to your hands, when you got to handle the basketball. So speedy recovery for him, that rookie there. A lot of promise. Just not seeing a lot of him because the Magic are the Magic at the moment.
Correct.
Let's move on because John Wall may have a future in Houston after a rocky relationship. They have agreed on both sides to let him sit out until they found a trade destination for him. But now he has kind of come around and turned a corner per se, telling them that he may be willing to play. They had a meeting, but the status is still up in the air. What do you make of this? What do you predict? Do you know anything? Because we know that he doesn't want to accept anything less than a starting point guard job. But now he's also being rumored that the Knicks are looking at him. Hence, Kemba struggling. What's going on?
It's a couple different things. One, John Wall's contract is massive, right? And Dexter says no, he does not want John Wall in New York. That massive contract with a player option that he will in fact exercise next season, and the amount of money that is, he currently does not play up to that level. Okay, that is the situation right now. But John Wall's healthy and can play, but the Rockets want to be terrible and lose. All right, you put John Wall on the floor, he may not be all-star level John Wall, but he'll help them win games, and they don't want to win games right now. They want to be terrible. So they want to get in that lottery and get more young players under team-friendly deals. And John Wall does not want to move off of and take any less or a buyout, right? So this is the struggle that they're coming to, right? Is that they both want to hold firm with where they are. John wants to play, but he's not going to take any less money or a buyout unless you find the trade partner, and they've been unable to because of the size of that contract. So, and Raphael Stone, who's the GM now, studied under the legendary Daryl Morey, whom we know will not move off of any deal unless he feels as though he is winning the transaction. So it's just strictly transactional right now. And so we'll see what they do, but barring anything major happening on either side conceding, I don't know where this goes.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about this one, because it's interesting. I mean, I think maybe he's having a little bit of FOMO, and
he wants to play. I mean, he's healthy and wants to play.
Yeah, exactly. So again, I mean, he looks like he's been up in the gym. Hopefully he can figure something out, because I mean, there's no way John Wall could be done.
Again, done's a relative term, right? Done in terms of what? Is he an all-star level player? Probably not. Can he be a starting level player or an off the bench energy scorer guy? Potentially, right? But again, what role is he willing to accept?
True, exactly. So, and that's what hurts a lot of guys sometimes, only accepting that one role. But hey, that's another pod for another time. Let's talk about the new addition to the Bucks, four-time All-Star Demarcus Cousins. He signed a 1-year deal and could be ready to play for Milwaukee as soon as Wednesday this week, guys. This is huge news, because let's not forget the Bucks are being ignored because there's so much going on in the association, but they are the reigning champs. They have Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jrue Holiday, and Middleton, and this big three that have driven Milwaukee to success. So talk to me about the addition in Demarcus Cousins, just another big man to add physicality down there under the basket and really help this team hopefully run it back.
Well, so what they're worried about there is Brook Lopez, right? Who's been suffering with injury and he hasn't played a bunch of games this season. So that's like Brook Lopez insurance, right? Can DeMarcus grab rebounds, and can he do the things that Brook Lopez did? That's what they have him there for. Boogie, of course, has not been the same since the injuries, and it's tough. But look, the Bucks, winners of 7 or 8 in a row, like, they're coming. Like, pay attention. They are coming. And, no one's thinking about that. Everybody's kind of like, oh, whatever. This team did win the NBA title last year, so do not be surprised if the Bucks, continue on this lengthy winning streak here. Look, this is all it is for them, is good insurance for Brook Lopez, who, we'll see where he is with that injury.
Oh, there I am, muting myself again. Demarcus Cousins, 31 years old. So again, even Coach Bud said, he's here to help us win. So they're in win now mode. They want to run it back. And he says he's at peace and he's happy and excited to be in Milwaukee. Maybe it'll bring a sense of calmness.
We'll see.
Just because I feel like, things haven't worked out for him. Again, like you said, he isn't the same since the injury. I mean, that's a pure sign of the Achilles just really tackling people in different ways.
I mean, yeah, it's rough. And DeMarcus is a big guy. Like, he's not, he's a big man, a very large human. So it's unfortunate.
It is. Hopefully, maybe he'll get that ring. So we shall see. But I mean, a lot of injuries, Jarod, in the association. A lot of good
Yeah.
competition,
Mhm.
but a lot of injuries that are not good. And like we mentioned before, LeBron James just entered health and safety protocols. So
I mean, supposedly he's vaccinated, so it shouldn't be too long in health and safety protocol. But
yeah,
this is just more bad news for the Lakers, who, let's be real, like this is like as presently constituted and the way they're playing, this is barely a playoff team, much less a contender.
just damn it. We're not going to panic yet, all right, guys? We still have until after Christmas before Jarod gets nasty. So until then, I'm going to wear this Knicks hat until we start losing. Then I have to swap it for somebody else when I jump on their bandwagon.
There you go. Fair weather, folks. But as always, thank you for tuning in to 7 Footers Podcast. Hey, we are part of the Props Network now, so make sure you get on over to that Props Network and you're subscribing to all the great shows on there. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, SoundCloud, all that stuff. At 7 Footers Pod on Twitter, at 7 Footers Podcast on Instagram, at JS Hector, at Jenna Lemoncelli. And until next time, peace.
Peace.
Spent a couple years out here with these raps, trying to have a plan that we made come true. Applied to some jobs, but I ain't hit back. I don't want to trap with some man going.